me great personal pleasure to welcome Minister Brian Hayes to the Seanad Chamber as Minister. Of course, because I'm well aware of and have high regard for the Minister's contribution as Senator and TD earlier to his appointment to such a significant brief. You and I have worked closely together for several years in light of our common concerns and commitments on behalf of the people of the West Tala communities who form part of your constituency. And I know firsthand your dedication, expertise, and empathy in progressing a multiplicity of these issues related to that constituency. And so I look forward to working with you in your new role and in my new role. My comments, I suppose I just want to welcome a number of aspects of the bill, as many others have done, but I particularly want to say how heartened I am to see that the bill moves towards evidence-based policy and law, whereby you're making a commitment to review the impact of many of the changes that are contained in the bill. And if they don't bring about what is expected, what those hoped for changes are, then those measures will be reviewed. And I think this is a progressive approach. But I suppose, Minister, my comments will, primary comments will center on the decision of the government to fund the Jobs Initiative by the levy of 0.6% of the market value of the assets. And in this regard, some of the things that in this regard I think have been noted by Senator O'Brien, but I'm going to take, I suppose, a little bit different perspective as well. As you know, the only existing pensioners who have pension funds are those on private sector defined benefit schemes and some of the private sector defined contribution schemes who haven't moved into the annuities or the approved retirement funds, which is why I think Senator Keene's comments are so appropriate and important here. This probably then means, Minister, that should the pension scheme trustees or administrators apply the tax levy to pensioners, and I suppose they don't have to do that, do they? I suppose they could instead absorb the levy by reducing their fees or becoming more efficient. But presuming that they do, it probably means, Minister, that the wealthiest pensioners will escape the levy. I say probably because there may be some very wealthy pensioners on defined benefit schemes. It's indeed true, though, as well, that the pension levy doesn't hit the poorest pensioners. These pensioners only receive the state pension, non-contributory. However, the wealthiest pensioners also escape from the levy, as they are more likely to have their funds in approved retirement funds, or at least annuities. The pensioners it's most likely to hit then are those in the middle, with defined benefit pensions, and many of these pension funds are already in trouble because they are underfunded, again, as Senator O'Brien already referred to. Taking a social justice perspective, Minister, and also being attentive to and strongly supportive of the initiatives that are proposed to create the conditions for job, I believe that a more equitable change in order to fund the Jobs Initiative, particularly to underpin the labor market, as you've outlined in your speech, and one also that would save far more money than the levy will rise, is the standard rating of pension contributions. According to data compiled by the TCD Pension Research Group in 2007, employer contributions to occupational pension schemes on behalf of employees amounted to 1.4 billion euros, and the estimated cost of tax relief and the exemption from benefit-in-kind taxation were 150 million euros and 540 million euros, respectively. Further, these tax reliefs were concentrated on the top 20% of the earners. As this research group argues, Minister, the best way, and I agree with them, the best way of creating greater pension equality between high, middle, and low earners would be to give the tax relief at the standard rate of tax, as is now done in the case of mortgage relief, interest relief, and health insurance relief. And doesn't the EU IMF program contain a commitment to standardize pension relief? So perhaps you note in your speech that there's a commitment to reduce the tax reliefs. Is that about standardizing them? I think perhaps the recommendation or the suggestion I'm putting forward is a solution that doesn't increase the cost of business, doesn't appear to increase the cost of business anyhow. And again, you've also a commitment that you've noted in your comments today. So I recommend that a more equitable change focused on the standard rating of pension contributions. And further, and in conclusion, by definition, this would affect the people paying into a pension fund, namely those who are younger, rather than those who are drawing it down, namely those who are older.
Senator Kilroy.